Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Do you ever get to the end of a movie where the hero had to make a difficult choice, and all you want to do is talk to people about whether they made the right one?
Watch an episode of Star Trek and spend the next few days thinking about the rights of synthetic beings like Data and the Doctor. I became a co-host of the Superhero Ethics podcast because I love those questions, and the people at Wendy's are tired of hearing me talk about them.
We're not a review podcast. We're more interested in questions the characters face and how different works approach similar questions. Sometimes we'll even go behind the camera, talking about how on-screen media gets made and how that affects what questions get asked, which ones don't, and who gets to ask them.
We hit a wide range of media: movies, TV shows, books, and video games.
You can find us under Superhero Ethics wherever you listen to podcasts or go to theethicalpanda.com. But you can also do far more. We love listener feedback and we'll happily talk about your questions or comments on air, and members get special bonus content.
Hashtag not sponsored by Wendy's.
What's up, Supernatural superfans? I'm Chrissy Lenz.
And I'm Nate McWhorter.
And we're the host of
Gang That Drink,
a supernatural drinking game podcast.
It's the podcast where we make up drinking game rules for a favorite episode of our favorite show, Supernatural.
We recap the episode for you and let you know how all the rules played out.
Then we let you know the drinking game rules for the next episode, so you can play along.
Plus, members get every episode early and ad-free,
with some extra bonus content chit-chat at the end of each episode as a member exclusive.
So download Gank That Drink, a supernatural drinking game podcast wherever the finest podcasts are available.
And or become a member at truestory.fm/gankthatdrink.
And when you're out there in the world saving people and hunting things,
you know, the family business.
Keep the Gank That Drink motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and party on,
dudes.
Yeah, I really came in with like very little to no expectations on the show, because it really is unlike anything else we've seen in Star Wars. My honest opinion is the first episode was kind of slow for me. I was kind of like, okay, what's going on? I was a little bored. By the end of the first episode and all of the second episode, I was like in it, gripped. I was like, all right, we're on this adventure. I feel like I'm watching Space Goonies. And I started really enjoying it. So I think a little slow on the start, but once it got going, I was into it.
I think that this is the Guardians of the Galaxy of the Star Wars universe. And I think what I mean by that is this: like, if you were an MCU fan and you saw Guardians of the Galaxy, some part of you is probably like, what the hell is going on? This doesn't feel anything like Thor or Captain America or Avengers or anything like that. And that was the point. It was a completely new genre. It was a completely different feel. It was a completely different tone, but it was taking place in the same universe. And with Star Wars, we've already had that to some extent. We've had like the heist movie, like Solo. We've had the like really gritty, like Andor. We've had more the kid style, like Young Jedi Adventures and stuff like that. And to me, this is. I love that you said Goonies, because to me, this is like, for the kids who grew up with the original trilogy, like I did. One of the other things we grew up with was 80s movie about what were called the kids on bikes movies, about kids in suburbia, the kind of movies that Strange Things is really referencing. And that's this, like you said, it's a Goonies in the Star Wars universe. And I think it's totally legit to like love it or not love it, and to like different parts of it. But for me, just starting out, I think I just wanted to say, like, I agree with those people who think this doesn't feel like other Star Wars. And I think that's the point. I think what we're getting here is Star Wars no longer has to feel a certain way. It's just a large universe that we can tell any kind of story in. Because, yeah, there's rebellions, there's desert planets, there's city planets, and apparently there's suburbia. And so we're going to tell a story in Star Wars suburbia, and I'm here for it.
I have my own actual theory on their home planet. I don't know if you want to get into that later or not.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, obviously the home planet gets more complicated. I just mean the general, like,
Oh yes, yeah, the
in
setting,
all these
yeah,
other universes, you can have a
yes,
story in suburbia, so why not in
yes.
Star Wars?
I did think when the first before we kinda got more information, I was like, is our story beginning in a gentrified New Republic neighborhood? This is crazy. Um,
Uh-huh.
and then it obviously got deeper than that, but no, I agree with you. I totally agree with you, and, like, I think I just was, like, thrown for a loop because of how different it was. Because it did feel like I was watching, like, The Goonies or, like, Stranger Things or something, but with, like, Star Wars undertones and characters, and I just was, I think, thrown off
Right.
for a minute, but then, like, once I bought into it all and, it got going, I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome, something new and refreshing."
Totally, totally. Do you want to give a quick plot summary of the 2 episodes, and we'll start diving in and talking more about them?
Sure, I'm very bad with character names, so please feel free to hop in here. But essentially, we start on this, like Matthew said, suburban world, and we meet multiple children main characters whose names are escaping me except for Neil because I love Neil. Here, I actually I pulled up right here, Matthew. Hold on. Okay, Wim. So Wim is the main character. Well, one of the main characters that we first meet, and you see that like his dad's very busy working in this suburban area, and he has to go off to school. Wim and his buddy Neil are obsessed with Jedi and lightsabers, and they like to play just like you would as a kid. They go to school, and as they're going to school, they see these 2 other kids on this speeder bike going kind of like racing down the street. Again, introducing future characters. And then for the next little bit of time, we're going through school, and there's a big exam coming up, and it feels very like, to me at least, very giver oriented. Like you have an exam that's going to determine your future coming up. You have to study. Um, all the kids go home, and Wim decides to well, he decides to the next morning take a shortcut because he overslept on his way to his exam. And so he hops on his bike and takes a shortcut he saw those kids take the previous day and stumbles upon what he thinks is an entrance to a Jedi
Mhm.
temple. Um, he is found by a droid who says you're basically committing truancy and missing your exam, takes him in. His father's furious, makes him swear that he's going to study and that he can't go out looking for all this stuff and to drop all this nonsense. While he was waiting for his dad to arrive, he meets one of those 2 kids who was on the previous bike. Her name is Fern, like the plant. And he lets slip that he thinks he found this thing.
Yep.
And so we see the next day, or for that evening rather, instead of studying like he's supposed to while his father's out at work, Wim returns with Neil to this Jedi Temple location and finds Fern and her buddy KB already there. They all end up working together to try and dig it out. Although the girl was definitely like made the boys do all the work. It was very, very like elementary school was silly, funny. They end up getting inside and discovering that it's not a
Mhm.
Jedi temple, it's a ship. And they find this one-eyed robot inside, or one-eyed droid rather, sorry. Um, I think his name is what is his name? SM33. SM33.
Quick significance about the name of that, by the way, SM33 Smee, like Captain Hook, the pirate's, main assistant,
Oh, I didn't pick up on that. That's
right?
so fun.
Yeah, they're kind of
That's
on this.
so fun. I did not pick up on that at all.
We got some stuff earlier about how this might be a pirate ship. There's a thing, kind of a prelude at the beginning about a pirate ship that gets taken over, and this might be connected to that. And so
Oh yes,
the
I
fact
forgot
that his
about
name
that.
is Smee, SM33, I think is going to be significant.
Yeah, I will just quickly mention that in the very beginning, there is a few words on the screen and a little prelude, like Matthew said, that I forgot to mention, where piracy is running rampant right now, and we see a pirate take over. And um, yeah, so these kids end up taking off on the ship because Wim pressed buttons he wasn't supposed to because he was curious and ends up activating the ship that then goes out into hyperspace. These kids had never been out of their town, let alone the planet. And they seem to have very little knowledge about like outer space when they first got up there. They're like, "What are all those things? Like the stars?" And they're like, "Oh, they're planets, I think." Like they just seem very unaware. They end up taking
Uh,
off, and that's how the first episode ends. Second episode, we end up, we see they get themselves out of hyperspace, and we get to see that SM33 had activated. Clearly, some sort of a pirate droid, but like Fern lies and says, "I killed your captain. You have to serve me now. I am the captain." And he's like, "All right, cool." Um, and he takes them to a pirate port where he shouldn't tell them it's a pirate port, but takes them to a port where they can get help, quote unquote, to try and get home. While at this port, they're like walking around trying to find help, and a few weird things happen. First of all, clearly a pirate port. Second of all, women been given like some Republic credits, some original Republic credits for lunch money by his dad the previous day,
Right.
and like is handing this out to people thinking that like it's not worth a lot of money, and they're like losing their mind like it is the most valuable currency imaginable. Um, Also, while they're they mention like, where are you from, and the different kids mention, oh, we're from Ad Asta, and people laugh at them. They say they're lying, and then they get really interested because they see the credits, and they're like, wait, Ad Asta is like this secret, mysterious, legendary planet with like hidden treasure on it. You're from this like legendary planet, like, so now all these like unsavory characters and pirates are like trying to like basically kidnap these kids, take their money, figure out where they're actually from. Um, and one pirate group, the pirate group we'd seen in the original, or in the first episode's prelude, whose main characters involve a wolf-looking guy and a main character played by the same actor who played Urkel.
Mm-hmm.
If any of y'all remember that from back in the day, and they are taken captive, thrown in the brig. They do not have their credits taken somehow. And while in the brig, our beloved Jude Law appears and says that he can help these kids get home. All he asks is that they let him come with them. And they're like, all right, dude, like that's fine, but like we're trapped in here. And he was just like, the key and the distance between us and the key is merely an illusion. And then he uses the force to grab the key. So we learn that Jude is either a Jedi, a former Jedi, a force user of some kind. Immediately, women's like, you're a Jedi. Oh my God. Because women, are obsessed with Jedi. Um, so this episode ends with you know they get the key, and they're gonna hopefully begin this escape in the next episode to begin their adventure.
Yeah. So we'll just add, they think that he's using the Force. I I think we're not. I think we're supposed to think that
Oh,
there may well be like he did some trick with magnets or something else like that, and he's not a Force user in the slightest. He could be a Force user. It's entirely possible.
I thought it was just a force user.
I'm really into where they're going to go with this, especially the idea of them kind of being in this place that's kind of trapped in time that maybe doesn't know about the fall of the Old Republic and the Empire and the New Republic. In part because in an early scene, instead of like pretending to be like Superman and Batman or whatever, they're pretending to be Jedi and Sith. And I had this whole thought process of like, oh, I kind of wonder like what does the New Republic tell people? Because most of these people, like their parents at evil, are they now being told that a lot of people still not believing it? Like I would love to explore that further. Because what does it mean that these kids are playing Jedi and Sith? And of course, we could actually it's that these kids like never actually learned about the fall of the Jedi or anything like that. So there's a part of me that still wants to get that part of the story in a different work, but I'm really curious to see what's up with this planet that seems to be kind of lost in time.
Well, it's funny because I had a slightly different take on it. I have been seeing this planet and Ad Astra, whatever, as almost like a, to me it was giving, like, if anyone's ever read The Giver, like an attempt at a utopian world. Like it's everything's very streamlined, like, it's all very like, everyone has their role. You take an aptitude test as a child to determine your role for the future, and that's just the role you're in. They don't know anything of the larger world. They've never left the planet. There's never any ships coming or going. The dad looks so
Right.
confused when he sees a ship, and when he tells the droids there was a ship, they said, a ship? That's impossible. Like it feels like they're all being trapped there, kept there, but not like in like a aggressive way per se. It's almost like they just don't know, like you said, like kind of lost in time. Like they don't know anything of the larger world, yet they're part of the High Republic, the New Republic in a way. Like they have access to these old Jedi and Sith stories. Um, so I'm just very intrigued because it does very much feel like this attempt at like a utopian world. And I don't know if that's like they're saying the early High Republic, that's what they did to try and like prevent, the re-rise of the Empire, or the any sort of like uprisings from happening. Like it's just really interesting because it's different than what we've seen in like the Mandalorian, for example, where it's a lot more like space travel and free
Mm-hmm.
roamers and the idea of like the Rangers that got scrapped, I guess. So I'm very, very curious why to outsiders this planet is like a legendary planet of treasure and gold, and to the people on the planet, it's this like weird, boring space that almost seems utopian but dystopian in a way.
They mentioned that there's a barrier and that no one is supposed to ever go in or out of it, and that you're punished for it. And you're right. There seems to be a general sense of it. It's not like everyone's like, "Oh my god, I want to go out." It's that this. It's that there's this of we have to. Everyone has so gotten used to the idea that we don't go out. It seems like this has happened generations and generations ago, that they've just all kind of accepted this. And so it makes me think like this wasn't something to protect them from the empire. This was something that happened like long, long ago in this world's culture, and that's why like the stories about it.
I'm curious to why it wouldn't change um with the changing between the Republic, the Empire, the New Republic, unless like they're out in the outer rim somewhere so far that like they're just were not even affected by it. But then how would they have legends of the Jedi and the Sith and Jedi Temple knowledge? It's very they did a very good job at crafting a mystery in just 2 episodes that like really hooks us. And I want to point out that
Agreed.
so far, um, it has the highest rating from the first 24 hours of a release on IMDb. It's still rated like 8.1 out of 10. Fans seem very pleased
Nice.
overall. There's always going to be people unhappy with everything, but it seems like a lot of people are really into it. And it's really funny to me because this is a show that I knew like nothing about and was just going in blind on. And I feel like there's a lesson there that maybe the Star Wars fan base is hungry for these kinds of like unique, different stories that like we just don't know what to expect in them.
Yeah, I I think that's really true, and I do think from what I'm seeing, kids have been watching this. People who are like, yeah, we like the Star Wars movies, but we're not super obsessed. But also, yeah, and it's funny. Yeah, I'm most of the comments I'm seeing are very positive. Um, there's a certain number of people who I'm seeing who are like, "Oh yes, this is so good, so much better than the Acolyte." And it's like, dude, we get you didn't like the Acolyte. You don't have to keep bringing that up. It's okay. I'm glad a lot of other people are really liking it, and I'm really curious to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, I'm also a really big fan of already, even though we've gotten very little so far, of the droid.
So I want to say more about all that in a moment, but first I just want to switch gears for just one moment. Alex, am I right that a lot of the books that we have for our book club, or other times you read books, often you listen to them, right? Through something like Audible?
Yeah.
What for you does that what for you why is that? What is it you like about listening to a book on what is it you like about listening to an audiobook as opposed to just reading it?
Well, I'm very ADHD, and while I do love reading a book when I can create the literal perfect setting, aka I have a ton of time and can just sit in a hammock outside, that doesn't happen very often, especially in Minnesota. A lot of times I'm on the go, I have to drive a lot for my job, or I'm just doing other things like I'm cooking, whatever. And an audiobook lets me listen to a story while I'm doing other things, while I'm, like I said, while I'm cooking, while I'm driving. It lets me kind of like just kind of fit in a chapter here and there whenever I'm doing something else and I just want a little, extra stimulation. Plus, while I do again love the voice in my head as I read, having like some of the voice actors that get to do the audiobooks like really bring them to life even more than I otherwise would. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, I mean, hell, they have um Andy Serkis doing this Cimmerillion voice acting. I haven't listened to it yet, but I just think it's cool that like you have some voice actors from the actual franchises doing voice acting for a lot of these books. So it just brings them to life even more for me.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I hadn't known about the circus one. I might try that out. Yeah, because I go on
Yeah.
long drives a lot, I'm listening to a lot of books on tape and audiobook right now, and I just fucking love and I just absolutely love it. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we, the Ethical Piano podcast, are now sponsored by Audible. And if anyone wants to
Woo.
get a chance to do this, to listen to books on tape yourself, if you go to audibletrial.com/Panda Audible. The link is going to be in our show notes, or to True Story FM/ethical audible. Either one of those, and then you sign up. I think you have to be signed up for 45 days, and then we will get some of that money back. So you're getting a chance to get a great deal on Audible, to get books on tape. A subscription makes a great Christmas gift or holiday gift, or whatever that holiday might be for you, and you can help support the podcast. So really want to encourage people to do that. The links are in our show notes. Of course, you can also support us by becoming a member. $5 a month, $15 a year. Sorry, $5 a month, $55 a year. You get access-free, ad-free content, bonus content, all kinds of great stuff like that. And of course, you can help support the podcast as well. So please give that a listen and check it out. So back though to what we're talking about with the show. Alex, you wanted to say something else about the droid.
I really like the droid because he's giving me almost some like K2 vibes, like Rogue One K2 vibes, but in a more like surly. Oh, Matthew, you still there? All right, folks. Well, we lost Matthew, so I'm just gonna kind of solo this for a minute here. But yeah. So the new droid really gives K2 vibes. The droid from Rogue One, for those who don't remember, but like a little more surly. Like kind of like this old, begrudging pirate. It's actually kind of funny to me because it also kind of gives the vibes of the Hu Yang, I think is how you say it. I can never remember the droid who helps build lightsabers with the younglings. Like it just feels like this droid's been on this ship forever. Very protective. Also, the fact that he has one eye, I think, is so pirate silly. Like it's like an eye patch almost. Um, Very protective, very fun. And the pirate crew that we're contending with, that weird wolf creature, and these pirates as a whole, like I I do theorize at least that in the very beginning of episode 1, that pirate that we saw that was originally their captain, who led them basically to this score they thought that had one single credit in it, instead of being killed, was actually Jude Law's character, who was then thrown in the brig. We never saw his face in that initial um, scene, and I believe that's where Jude Law, where he came from. I think he was previously the captain. I think we're going to learn that pretty soon. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that I really do think that the I really do think that I mean, I have always loved pirates, even dating back to the Clone Wars, Hondo and Naka, all those things. Like I think a pirate show is really interesting, and having these kids in there um makes it even more fun. Again, like it's like the Goonies, and they're going to probably be looking for their home, and I'm very curious if like their home is actually the legendary planet, or if they end up searching for somewhere completely different. But all in all, it just feels very, I don't know, very homey, very like it feels like I'm about to go on this unique space adventure that um but I don't know, and I haven't gotten to go on in a Star Wars story before. Like I feel like, it's usually the Jedi going on an adventure, or even in Solo, like yeah, that was an adventure, but it's like characters we know, smugglers, whatever. These are characters we don't know. They're children, they're innocent. Also, the children themselves are really interesting. If I may for a moment talk about them, uh honestly, Wim was a little annoying to me. He just seems very like whiny, and I get it. Like he seems to not really have a lot of attention at home, so I think it makes sense. I think he'll grow. He's the most potential for character growth. Um Fern, very like badass, very like, take charge. Really respect her already. She seems very fun, able to bullshit her way through anything. Um, Neil, my favorite guy so far. Oh my god, he's one so cute, and when we got to see his family and his little baby siblings, they are so cute. Um, Very kind of goofy best friend material. Again, very like classic stereotypes. Um, and then KB was also really interesting to me. She has one of those like at least I think it's implanted into her head, but like one of those robot implants on her temples, but she like is able to control it and use this little visor to like she's able to control it and use this little visor to like work on tech things, see into machines, stuff like that. Um, and I think it's I don't know, she was just very interesting and different. And seeing like these two pairs of friends, KB and Fern, women Neil, kind of come together to make this motley crew of lost children in space on a pirate adventure with a real or not Jedi pirate faker con man, whatever he is. Um, I feel like it's going to be a really unique story, and I have no idea where it's going to go. That's the other fun part. Is I feel like the acolyte. You also didn't really know where it was going to go. And but like there was, I don't know. I feel like with the acolyte, at least you kind of had your main. It was there's a mystery, people being murdered, there's a Sith Lord. Like you knew something generally what was going to go on. All I know here is there's going to be an adventure, and they're going to try and get home. Um, but who knows what's going to happen in between that? Like it's cool and exciting in a way that I think what I usually love about Star Wars is I do know what's going to happen, and here I just don't. I have no idea where it's going to go. Um, yeah, I'm really curious to see also like what happens back on the main planet because Fern's mom is a uh I'm also really curious what's going to happen back on the planet because Fern's mom works as a teacher and an undersecretary on Atten. Her name's Farah, and she actually like is the one that comes into the children's classroom in the first episode and is like, this test is happening tomorrow. It determines your entire future. Like she's clearly like somewhere up on the hierarchy. I'm kind of triggered whenever I hear undersecretary. I think of Undersecretary Underwood, or Madam Undersecretary from Harry Potter. Um, and I'm just worried that Farrah's bad vibes. And she seems like a very controlling mother with Fern, and very much like you need to study, find your place. Um, so I'm just very curious, like how that all shakes out. Um, in the coming episodes, because Atten seems very utopian, weird, unique, but it also seems very safe. And I think that between Wim's dad, Wendell, being very confused and lost, and Fern's mom being with the power she has, I'm curious if they're gonna leave the planet in search for them. And if that's like a secondary plot line, or if they're just gonna all kind of stay there and try to figure out what the hell happened, how this pirate ship even got there. I want to know how this ship got buried too in this utopian world, how that was overlooked for so long. But yeah, I also did. Like Matthew said earlier, I really did enjoy seeing a kind of suburban setting. We've only really seen city settings in Coruscant. It's like actual neighborhood vibes, which was really unique. And it did feel a little weirdly gentrified at first, but then you learn because it's a weird utopian world. So I don't really think it's gentrification. I don't know if you can really have gentrification in a dystopian world in the traditional sense. Maybe you can. I don't know. But I don't know. Really interesting to me. I'm really excited to see how the story goes. I don't know how much more I can really just say on my own. Sorry, y'all, that this was kind of a Matthew was having internet issues, and Erin has a lot going on at home right now. So it ended up being just me at the end here. But we have a great adventure ahead of us. 20 more episodes to go in this season where we get the whole crew back together, truly dive in and chat and dig into the mystery and the stories that lie before us. What is that Atten? Is there a treasure? Is it just some weird utopian world? What is the story behind that? Let's find out who Jude Law really is, and maybe we'll get some coming of age story with these children along the way too. Um, thanks for listening, y'all. Uh, thanks for listening, y'all. We have spoken. Stay classy, Atten, if that is your real name.